They say the first year of any relationship is the hardest. Try having your first relationship at 71 after spending 52 years in a convent where even holding hands was forbidden. Elena and I thought leaving was the hard part. We were wrong. Learning to fight, to compromise, to be vulnerable without vows to hide behind, that's the real challenge. And when my estranged sister shows up in Lisbon with news that forces me to return to the life I left behind, I have to decide, am I Margaret Walsh, free woman? Or am I still Sister Margaret, running from one set of walls into another? This is the messy, beautiful, terrifying truth about what happens after happily ever after. It started with dishes, such a stupid, mundane thing. But 18 months into our life together, Elena came home to find the kitchen a disaster, again, and something in her snapped. Margaret, we talked about this. Her voice was tight, controlled. If you cook, you clean up after. I looked at the pile of pots I'd meant to wash, the flour dusting every surface from my failed attempt at bread. I was going to do it. I just needed a moment to rest. You always need a moment. She set down her bag harder than necessary. And then I come home exhausted from 12-hour shifts and have to clean up after you like you're a child. The words stung. I'm trying, Elena. I spent 52 years having other people cook for me, clean for me. I'm learning. You've had 18 months to learn. She threw up her hands. How long does it take to understand that when you make a mess, you clean it up? Well, forgive me for not being perfect like you. My voice rose, unfamiliar anger flooding through me. Not all of us got to live normal lives, making normal mistakes, learning normal things at normal ages. Don't you dare use the convent as an excuse for everything. Elena's eyes flashed. You left, Margaret. You chose this life. But you can't keep using your past as a shield every time things get hard. The silence that followed was deafening. We'd never fought like this before. Small disagreements, yes, but never this, raw and ugly and real. I'm going for a walk, Elena said, finally grabbing her jacket. Elena, wait. But she was gone. The door closed with a click that felt like a crack in my chest. I stood in that messy kitchen, 71 years old, and cried like a child. Because she was right. I had been using my past as an excuse. Every time something was hard, every time I failed at some basic adult task, I'd hide behind I was a nun, I don't know how. But the truth was scarier. I was afraid of failing. Afraid that if I really tried and still messed up, it would mean I was fundamentally broken. That 52 years behind walls had damaged me beyond repair. When Elena came back 2 hours later, I'd cleaned the kitchen until it sparkled. I was sitting at the table, hands wrapped around cold tea. I'm sorry, I said before she could speak. You're right. I have been hiding, not just from cleaning, but from everything. From really trying, because if I don't really try, I can't really fail. Elena sat across from me, exhaustion written in every line of her face. I'm sorry, too. I shouldn't have yelled. I'm tired, Margaret. I'm tired of being the strong one, the one who has everything figured out. I need you to be a partner, not a project. I know. I reached for her hand. And I want to be, but I'm scared. What if I can't be what you need? What if you already are, and you're just too afraid to see it? She squeezed my fingers. You think I have everything figured out? I'm terrified every day that you'll wake up and realize you made a mistake, that you'll miss the convent and resent me for taking you away from it. Never, I said fiercely. Elena, you didn't take me from anything. You showed me there was something to take myself to. We sat there, hands clasped across the scarred kitchen table, and I realized something. This was love, too. Not just the passion and the romance, but the hard conversations, the hurt feelings, the choosing each other even when it wasn't easy. We need to learn how to fight, Elena said finally, and how to come back from it. Is there a manual for that? She laughed, tired but genuine. If there is, neither of us have read it. We'll figure it out together. Together, I agreed. And this time, I meant it. Not as the weaker partner being led, but as an equal stumbling through this messy, complicated, beautiful life side by side. 3 weeks after our first real fight, my sister showed up at our door. I hadn't seen Patricia in 53 years. She'd been 15 when I entered the convent, angry that I was abandoning the family. We'd exchanged perhaps a dozen letters in all that time, mostly about our parents' deaths. I didn't even know she knew where I was living. She looked old, older than me, though she was 5 years younger. Her face was lined with bitterness, her hair dyed an unnatural black, her clothes expensive but severe. Margaret. Not a greeting, just a statement of fact. Patricia. I was frozen in the doorway, Elena's hand suddenly on the small of my back, steadying. How did you find me? Sister Josephine told me, said you'd want to know. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Dad's house. The church wants to claim it. Says since you took vows, you forfeited any inheritance rights. My stomach dropped. Our childhood home, the last connection to parents who died while I was behind walls, unable to even attend their funerals. That's ridiculous, Elena said, her voice sharp. She left the order. Any vows are void. Patricia's gaze slid to Elena, assessment and disapproval clear in her expression. And you are? Elena Rousseau, Margaret's partner. The word hung in the air. I'd never said it in front of family before, never claimed this relationship to anyone who'd known me as Sister Margaret. Patricia's face twisted. Of course. Mom always said you weren't natural. Guess she was right. Don't. My voice came out stronger than I expected. You don't get to do that. You don't get to show up after 53 years and judge me. I'm not here to judge. I'm here because the church is trying to steal what's rightfully ours, and I need you to come back and fight it. The lawyer says your testimony is crucial. You need to formally renounce your vows, prove you left voluntarily, that you have legal standing. When? Next week, in Boston. She looked around our apartment with barely concealed disdain. Unless you're too busy playing house with your friend. Elena's hand tightened on my back, but I stepped forward. Patricia, I know you don't approve. I know this isn't the life you expected me to live. But it's my life. Elena is not my friend. She's the person I love. And if that makes you uncomfortable, you can leave. For a moment, I thought she might, but then her shoulders sagged. I don't care who you sleep with, Margaret. I need your help. The house is all we have left of them, and I can't fight the church alone. That night, Elena and I lay in bed, not touching, both staring at the ceiling. You have to go, she said finally. I don't want to leave you. I know, but that house, your parents, you have unfinished business. She turned to face me. And maybe you need to go back to really move forward, to prove to yourself that you can face that world and still choose this one. What if I get there and can't come back? Then I'll come get you. She kissed me softly. Margaret, I trust you. I trust us. Go. Fight for what's yours. I'll be here when you get back. Boston in February was exactly as I remembered, cold, gray, and unwelcoming. Patricia met me at the airport, and we drove to the house in silence. Our childhood home looked smaller than I remembered. The garden where I'd played was overgrown, the paint peeling, but it was still standing, still holding 50 years of memories I'd tried to leave behind. The hearing is tomorrow, Patricia said as we pulled into the driveway. The church's lawyer is aggressive. They're going to try to paint you as mentally unstable, claim you weren't in your right mind when you left. Let them try. But my hands were shaking as I unlocked the door. Inside, everything was frozen in time. Mom's Afghans on the couch, Dad's reading glasses on the side table, Photos on the mantel, including one of me at 18 in my novice's habit, smiling like I'd found my purpose. I picked up the photo, studying that young girl's face. Had I known even then that I was making a mistake? Or had I truly believed? "You looked so happy," Patricia said behind me. I looked terrified. I set the photo down. But I was very good at pretending. That night I called Elena. "I miss you." "I miss you too." I could hear the smile in her voice. "How is it?" "Strange. Like visiting a museum of my own life." I paused. Patricia asked me tonight why I really left. Not just the convent, but the family. She said I disappeared long before I took vows. "What did you tell her?" "The truth, that I was running, from expectations, from a life I didn't want, but didn't know how to refuse." I looked at that photo of young me, so certain and so lost. I thought the convent was an escape. Turns out it was just a different kind of prison. And now? Now I'm choosing, really choosing for the first time in my life. I smiled even though she couldn't see it. "I choose you, Elena. I choose us. I choose this messy, complicated, beautiful life we're building. Then come home and help me build it." The hearing the next day was brutal. The church's lawyer was exactly as Patricia had warned, aggressive, condescending, determined to paint me as a confused old woman who'd been manipulated into leaving. "Isn't it true, Miss Walsh, that you suffered from depression during your time in the order?" he asked, pacing like a predator. "I prefer Margaret. And yes, at times. Don't most people? And isn't it true that you left without proper dispensation, in violation of your vows?" "I left because I chose to. The vows I made at 18 were made by someone who didn't know any better, someone who'd never been given the chance to know herself." "So you admit you weren't in your right mind when you made those vows?" I stood up, surprising everyone, including myself. "I admit that I was 18 years old, pressured by my family and my church to make a decision that would affect the rest of my life. I admit that I spent 52 years living a lie because I didn't have the courage to tell the truth. And I admit that leaving was the sanest, bravest, most right-minded thing I've ever done." The room went silent. The lawyer opened his mouth, closed it. "My parents left that house to their children, Patricia and me. The fact that I spent 52 years as a nun doesn't change that I'm their daughter, that I loved them, that I deserve what they wanted me to have." I looked directly at the judge. "I left the church. The church doesn't get to follow me home." I won. Not easily, not quickly, but I won. The house was ours, mine and Patricia's. The church couldn't touch it. On my last night in Boston, Patricia and I sat in the kitchen where we'd grown up, drinking tea like civilized people who barely knew each other. "You've changed," she said finally. "I've become myself." "Is she good to you? This Elena?" I thought about Elena's patience, her strength, the way she pushed me to be better while loving me exactly as I was. "She's everything." Patricia nodded slowly. "Mom wouldn't have understood. But maybe she would have wanted you to be happy, in whatever way that looked." It wasn't approval, but it was something. A beginning. When I got back to Lisbon 2 days later, exhausted and jet-lagged, Elena was waiting at the airport with flowers. Not roses or lilies, sunflowers, bright and bold and alive. "Welcome home," she said. And I realized something. This was home. Not Boston, not the convent, not the house I'd fought for. Home was wherever Elena was. That night, as we lay tangled together in our bed, Elena asked, "Do you regret it? Going back?" No, I needed to face it, to prove to myself that I could stand in that world and not disappear back into it. I kissed her shoulder. I know who I am now. Margaret Walsh, free woman, your partner, someone who's still learning and still making mistakes and still choosing this life every single day. Good. She pulled me closer. Because I have a question. What? My contract here is ending in 6 months. I've been offered a position in Paris. My heart stopped. Paris? It's a teaching hospital. Great opportunity. But I need to know. She turned to face me, vulnerable in a way I rarely saw. Are you with me? Not just here, but wherever we go? I thought about the girl who'd entered the convent at 18, choosing safety over adventure, and the woman who'd left at 70, choosing love over certainty, and the person I was now, still scared, still learning, but no longer hiding. I've never been to Paris, I said, but I hear they have excellent bread. Maybe you could teach me to make it properly this time. Elena laughed, bright and joyful. Is that a yes? That's a yes. To Paris, to wherever, to this messy, beautiful, complicated life. I kissed her slowly, deeply, all the love and fear and hope I carried poured into that moment. Better late than never, right? Better late than never, she agreed. And for the first time in my 71 years, I knew exactly where I belonged. 6 months later, Elena and I moved to Paris. I enrolled in French classes, got a job at a community center, and learned to make bread that only occasionally turned out like rocks. We fought sometimes about dishes, about schedules, about my tendency to overthink everything and her tendency to avoid difficult conversations. But we always came back to each other. Sister Josephine visited last month. She's 83 now, still in her habit, still choosing her path as surely as I chose mine. We drank wine on our tiny Parisian balcony and laughed about the time I tried to cook cassoulet and nearly burned down the kitchen. Are you happy? She asked as she was leaving. I thought about it, really thought about it. About the mistakes I still make, the fears I still carry, the ways I'm still learning to be fully human, and about Elena sleeping in our bed, about the life we're building one imperfect day at a time. Yes, I said, I'm happy. Good. She hugged me tight. That's all Sister Mary Catherine would have wanted for you. That's all any of us want, to be happy in whatever way we can find it. I'm 72 now. I've been with Elena for 2 years. And every morning when I wake up next to her, I make the same choice I made that first day I left the convent. I choose this. I choose love. I choose life. It's never too late to start living. Trust me, I'm living proof. Your turn. What would you do if you could start completely over? Where would you go? Who would you become? And do you want part 4? Margaret and Elena's adventures in Paris? The challenges of a new city? And what happens when Elena gets a life-changing diagnosis? Drop a comment below. If this story inspired you, share it with someone who needs to hear that second chances are real, no matter your age. Every share helps spread hope.